Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com. Welcome back, Washington, D.C. Metro, to Ryan Sloper's Real Estate Radio. I'm joined today by Louis Cammarosano, the general manager of HomeGain. Coming back to what we were talking about before the break, we were discussing what happened in the markets last week. Last Friday, the personal spending and consumer sentiment was examined, and consumer confidence did improve, but stagnation does loom, they were saying. Thomson Reuters, University of Michigan's final September reading of the overall index on consumer sentiment ended at 59.4, which is almost 2 points higher than earlier this month. Now, although economists had not expected the index to rise, the small upward shift is not enough to dispel the sense of gloom that persists around the U.S. economy. However, it does signal that consumers do not expect the economy to enter a deeper decline. And Louis, I'm not really sure. I don't read too much into consumer sentiment going up by 2 points. I do think that gas prices, they did tail off a little bit, which obviously helps sentiment when gas prices are falling. So that can be one indicator. But I was reading in an article, and this is back the Gallup poll from back in June, and it kind of gave a breakdown of weekly spending. And I thought it was really interesting. The cutting for those with incomes below $36,000 is 73% plus. Those in the middle income brackets were 62% plus. But the very bad news in that Gallup poll was those at 240,000 plus, which are Obama's rich, or they're considered Obama's rich, say they've cut
millionaires and billionaires.
Right. Say they've cut back by 48%. So, that's really not a spending cut that's based on the inability to spend, but it's the unwillingness to spend. And it's just like they basically have completely put a strike on their capital where they're not doing anything, or they're being more cautious. And what is it going to and I think this is the real question we need to be asking ourselves as a government, is what we should be doing to get these people to start spending that money again.
Well, actually, the government, we shouldn't be asking them to do anything. What they should be doing is saving their money and reducing their debt. When people are in debt, there shouldn't be plans to try to get them further into debt.
No, but a lot of these people are small business owners is what I'm really referring to.
Oh, sure. They're not spending the money, right? But that's because what they'll tell you is there's uncertainty in the market, and there's also a lot of regulations, and they also don't want to hire because there's certain liabilities that are associated with hiring, and they're not sure whether their businesses can really warrant another hire, and they err on the side of caution and don't hire the person.
Yeah, they actually had brought up something interesting. It says, what would happen?
Remember, also with Obamacare coming in, I think people don't want to go over that 50 employee limit. And most small businesses, most jobs in the country are created by small businesses. So small businesses actually have an incentive not to hire.
Right. Yeah. But, we're such a trickle-down economy that it's like when the people at the top aren't spending this money or not, wanting to create jobs, whether it be, stricter regulations or just the uncertainty that's out there, ultimately the people at the bottom are going to struggle more and more. That's really what's going on now. There's just not enough going on at the top to get down to the bottom.
Right. It doesn't do a poor person any good to tax the rich, because there really isn't a transfer. When you tax the rich, it's not like then the poor gets the money. It goes to the government, and then it gets wasted.
Correct.
It doesn't necessarily find its way into programs that help the poor.
Well, not only that, but what most people don't understand about the rich is most of the rich don't take ordinary income. So, you would have to tax their wealth and not their income, because, most
rich people would leave the country then.
Exactly. But, most of which, and even Warren Buffett is out there saying that, he would pay more taxes. He's not taking ordinary income.
Check.
Right. To cut the check. Why wouldn't he put his money where his mouth is? He won't. And
he's not. But you see, the problem with Warren Buffett is he is paying more because he owns Berkshire Hathaway, and that pays 35% tax, and then he takes his dividends at 15% tax. So he's paying them out. It's because he gets a salary of only like $200,000,
right,
that he pays lower income tax.
Right. Yeah, and and not just that.
In fact, I don't even know if he takes a big salary. He may take all of his money from income and then pays it on the corporate side as well.
Yeah, well, and even if they try to change this tax structuring, what they would typically do anyway is they would just stop earning any taxable income, and withdraw all their capital from activity, they could basically start drawing down on their principal and owe zero capital gains tax.
Right.
So, they know what they're doing. There's always going to be a way around anything. So I don't think I don't agree with taxing the rich more. I mean, I don't think this is just a tax problem. I think it's technically more just of a spending issue. And
Of course it is.
until we can rein that in, not much is going to change. It's going to be much of the same around here in Washington.
I mean, I think the tax receipts are in the trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
There's enough money. It just depends on what do you want the government to do with it. And when you hear that they give it to companies that blow it and waste it, or they send it overseas, then why should anybody pay more taxes to pay for that? Because most people are not in favor of most government spending. What they do is they trot out the things that people are in favor of, like Social Security, police and fire, and so on, and they say they're going to have to cut that if we don't raise taxes. Not true. You can cut bureaucrats, you can cut departments that nobody's interested in, you can cut foreign aid, and so on. And that's really where the problem is, and that's where you get the kind of push for raising taxes as if the government is doing certain things that we really need, and if we don't get that tax revenue, we're going to be in trouble.
Right.
They never talk about the spending cuts because the spending is what keeps most politicians in office.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about, the bigger issue at hand. They never do.
Well, because they're beholden to their corporate lobbyists who want them to spend money on their projects.
Absolutely.
And where does that money come from? The government doesn't produce anything, so they have to take it in taxes or ask the Federal Reserve to print it up.
Yeah, and and that's why it's kind of like, really, I mean, we could solve this issue if we wanted to, but they're not willing to. So,
well, because otherwise they'd be out of a job.
Right.
If they supported those types of programs, they wouldn't get spending cuts. They wouldn't get donations from companies, and they wouldn't get reelected.
And instead of them being out of a job, it's the average Joe that's out of a job.
Correct.
Yep. Well, we have all this negative talk going on, but we do have some good news for veterans. They actually the House had passed a bill which the president was expected to sign. It's currently extending the current funding fees until November 17th. There's actually supposed to be a reduction in what's the upfront mortgage insurance premium that's paid to VA. Now, a lot of you are probably familiar, if you are a veteran, that when you buy a home and you use your VA eligibility, that there's a insurance premium that they collect, which is a funding fee, and it's typically added onto the loan amount. Well, as of November 17th, for people that are putting less than 5% down, that fee is going to drop by 0.75% for people on their first-time use. So for first-time use of your VA entitlement for veterans, active duty, and reservist National Guard service will decrease by 0.75% for all down payment tier levels under 5% or less. For funding fees for loans with the second and subsequent use of VA entitlement for veteran activity and reservists will decrease by 0.5% for less than 5% down payment, and on purchase transactions and cash out refinance transactions. Funding fees for loans with the second and subsequent use for VA entitlement for veteran active duty will decrease 0.75% for more than 5% down and more than 10% down as well. Funding fees for interest rate reductions refinancing loans, which are streamlined refinances, which are very easy to do, by the way, because you don't have to basically have any do any income or employment checks. It's really just down the line. If you've been making your payment for the last 12 months, you can qualify for these if you currently have a VA loan. That will remain the same at 0.5%. So, if you're a veteran out there, this is definitely very beneficial. The first time use as of right now was 2.15%. That's going to go down to 1.4%. So the overall cost of a loan is going down for them. And it's interesting, Lewis, because VA has the lowest rate of default of any loan that's out there right now.
Well, here's a way to jumpstart the economy. If somehow we can get all the troops overseas to come home, and they'd apply as veterans, they'd be spending their money here, and they'd be taking those loans out. That'd be a real jolt to the economy.
Look at you with the creativeness today. You think about how many troops would be coming back. I mean, that would be a huge jump.
Well, after World War II, it really wasn't World War II that got us out of the Depression. It was the troops coming home, because during World War II there were still shortages, and there still was not a robust economy. It was all of the able-bodied men coming back from World War II.
D.C. metro area would definitely have a shortage of supply of houses then, though. Oh, I don't know what we would do, because we already have such a low supply. But other areas of the country would definitely help. Really, when you think about it, how many hundreds of thousands of troops that are out there, definitely
spending all their money overseas and not applying for home loans here.
Yeah. But it's just amazing to me though that while FHA is increasing their premiums, their mortgage insurance premiums, obviously they have to have a certain cash reserves, and now they're almost like 50% of the actual loans that are done in this country now, so they have to raise those premiums up. We have the Veterans Administration, which is lowering fees to veterans, who have the lowest default rate of any loan that's out there. So I mean, I'm just amazed, and a lot of it has to do with them being a veteran and having responsibility and not wanting to default on this because it is such a good benefit. But you know what? If there was more creativeness as far as loan programs that are out there, I think that you could really start to attract more buyers to the market. I know that there are a few first-time home buyer programs in Virginia, by a few niche little banks that are doing, if you make less than $75,000, that you can qualify for 100% financing with no mortgage insurance, which would really reduce their payment by like $200 versus going to an FHA government loan. So there's a lot of programs out there. What it really is really, looking at your individual situation and finding out what you could potentially, qualify and be able to apply for, because for every person it's going to be different. And I really think that, I know I say that, but every situation, every person I talk to is completely different. And it starts with, just sitting down and looking at what all your options are. You might be qualifying for 100% financing that you didn't know you could qualify for. You might be able to write a contract, get the seller to pay your closing costs, and you get into the house for $500 out of pocket. That's a great deal for you, securing in a long-term interest rate of somewhere around 4%, depending upon your qualifications. Call 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Now, when we come back, we're going to help you determine where you should go to determine your home's value, especially if you're considering refinancing in this market. You're listening to Real Estate Radio. Stay right there.